Hello and welcome back to the Terrace Live podcast. It's episode 2, following on from episode 1, where we had the guys from the Terrace talking about their journey through from being a bit of a banter football page to the colossus that they are now. And following hot on their heels is marketing manager at Exeter City, Scott Palfrey. So welcome to the Terrace Live podcast, Scott. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Really good, thanks. Obviously getting used to the situation we're in. I know Carl and that's original plan for these kind of things was for it to be sort of a face-to-face kind of thing, wasn't it? So it was nice to see they're utilising technology like everyone else and still carrying on with this kind of thing.
Yeah, so how have you been coping in sort of lockdown?
It's been all right, to be honest. Not as bad as you'd imagine when you first hear, you're going to be trapped inside for who knows how long, but a bit weird for us really, because obviously everything we do is at the stadium and football based. So without football, what have you got really? That is the bread and butter to what we do. So yeah, it's been a challenge, but I think like most people are sort of used to the whole home working thing at the moment, hoping it doesn't carry on for too long. But it's given everyone an opportunity, I think, to sort of stop and assess what you've been doing, or maybe think a bit more about what you're doing and if you should be doing it really. I think so. It's kind of the first, aside from like the summer breaks, it's kind of like the first time we've had to sort of think about what's going on really.
Yeah, so I think the best place to start them, Scott, is how have you ended up being marketing manager at Exeter City? I think that's the very best place to start.
Probably a bit of luck as well as having the ability to do the role. But I finished uni in 2009, so just over a decade ago. Did a film and video qualification, so it was sort of practical and theory based, writing about movies, which I wasn't really that interested in. I'm more of a practical kind of person. So finished that, and like everyone, I think at the time, didn't really know what do you do now, like when you finish uni, because the jobs aren't just there for you. So did the usual sort of worked in retail for a couple of years, in a clothes shop and stuff like that. One role involved dressing up as a robot, which was a fun one. Do you remember the digital switchover when that happened from analog to digital? Yeah. When I was living in Wales at the time, and they were doing as part of this roadshow thing, which like educated old people and that how to switch over. And my job was to dress up as the mascot at the time, which was called Digital Al, which you couldn't see out of his face or anything, and it was really weird, but got paid decent money to do that, so that was quite fun. But yeah, and then started doing some work experience with like a small production company in Exeter, just helping out on a Thursday whilst I was working, and then just started applying for jobs. Really applied for loads, and thankfully got a job in marketing at Exeter College, which was like my first sort of opportunity in 2011, doing web and digital. So sort of learned, it was mainly like controlling the website and social media accounts and doing videos for that. So I think it gave me the opportunity to learn some skills I probably didn't have that much of, like the website stuff and that, and managing a brand's social media and stuff. So did that for 4 years and loved it really. It was a great job. We won like the marketing team of the year for the colleges 1 year that we were there, which was really cool. That was like based out of the country, so that was like a good honor to have. And yeah, it's a great job, like so many great people and stuff, and just learned a lot of things I don't think I would have been able to otherwise. And then after that, I was trying to, thinking take the next step. So got a job at a local charity, it was like the next step up sort of role and that kind of thing. To be honest, I hated it. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't a great place to work. They were sort of going through like I think they were being taken over by someone else, but they didn't really know what they were doing. So like what they're focusing on and stuff. So it was just, I'd never enjoyed it. It's the only job I've been to which I've not really enjoyed going into work. And I was there for nearly a year, and thankfully they went through a stage where they made like literally everyone redundant. So it got to the stage where I had to try and find something else, and that's when I saw the one at Exeter City come up, and I was like, I've got to go for that, being a fan and stuff. And it was a marketing manager job, and I was thinking that is, where I've been trying to get to. And so I applied for that and met with Justin, who was the GM, and Julian, the chairman. Met them a couple of times, and I think it was about a month later they offered me the job, and I was delighted at the time, and still am now. Really, it's look forward to going to work every day, and for me, I guess you'd say it was a dream job really, because it's my team that I've supported since I was a kid, Devon lad and that. So I love it really, and it seems to be going pretty well. It's been like 4 years now, so we're on a good path, and hopefully people appreciate and enjoy what we're doing at the moment. So hopefully long may that continue when we get back to normal really.
Yeah, absolutely. So Scott, for the casual listener who may not know what a marketing manager does, for a major brand in a football team, so regardless of whether it's a League Two or a Premier League club, the massive brands, aren't there, that mean a lot to people. So if you were to describe what your role is as marketing manager, what would that be?
It's probably a bit more varied and more, what's the word, like more hands-on than you would at most, because of the level we're at. So instead of overseeing everything as a marketing manager would and have people underneath them, my job is overseeing and doing it. So controlling everything we do in terms of the website, social media, video, design, the brand, all that kind of stuff. I'm working with a couple other people, but not necessarily in a marketing kind of role. So so it's very varied and hands-on and getting in there and doing it, which can mean it's very time consuming, and I enjoy that. And then you do a lot more hours than you probably should and stuff, but because you enjoy doing that, I think.
In a funny kind of way though, because you sort of control it all, do you think that's possibly a benefit compared to your bigger clubs where you may have a team working for you? Because essentially you are your own boss, you are fully carte blanche in charge. So do you think that's probably a benefit rather than a negative?
I think so, yeah. I think because you share your own vision, then, don't you? I guess if you're the only one doing it. So I mean, I do have a terrible trait of being quite I wouldn't say controlling, but like I like things in a certain way and that. So I think it does have its benefits. Obviously, you can achieve more with the more people you have, can't you? So that's why the big brands have mass teams behind them and stuff, don't they? But I think at the moment we're doing pretty well for where we're at, really.
Yeah, absolutely. How's your sort of strategy, and how's your job changed due to COVID-19 and the current health crisis?
I mean, it was all out the window, really, wasn't it? In terms of like coming towards the end of the season, the 9 games left. I think we had 5 at home still, so quite a percentage left, and being 4th in the table, it's all getting quite exciting, really. And we're weeks away from the Devon derby down at Plymouth and things like that. So it's been tricky, but it's given us an opportunity to try doing some things that you probably wouldn't have done, but that have been more like better for engagement and stuff. And I think I was having this conversation with someone yesterday, but like I think you forget, because football's so like schematic and like it follows the same schedule every season, that you do things out of habit. So you do your things like play your promotional stuff and matches, you have to do your interviews on a Thursday and after the games and all that kind of stuff, and you do your program, you do everything like that, and you think these are things you just do anyway, but you don't stop and think about the stuff that people are going to engage with better, like just actually speaking to people and trying to do some fun things. So I think it's made all clubs kind of think, well, it's what we're trying to achieve here is actually important, that we keep people on our side and stay engaged with them, really, as well as for us being support owned, it makes it even more important that we keep those supporters who own the club informed as to what's going on and how the club's dealing with the situation, because it has huge financial implications, and for the future of the club as well as what's happening now. So I think if we'd have gone radio silent right now, it would have been the worst thing, really, because people would start to worry that they didn't know what's happening and the club didn't know what it was doing. So I think it's been very, very important that we've been getting those key messages out, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation, isn't it? Because obviously the only other thing we have like this is the summer break. But for me, the summer break always feels like a natural pause. Where like you kind of like bury what's gone before, whether that's success or not, and you then have new visions of how the new season's going to play out. But at the moment, we've literally just pressed pause on everything. Like, there's lots of questions to be asked, like, teams lower down the pyramid, are they going to survive this? And, player contracts, and how do we finish seasons? There's lots and lots of discussion going on at the minute, and it is a particularly weird time. And I was chatting to someone yesterday about this, actually, and they were saying, I think it's come to people how much football is a large part of your life, and because at the minute we can't see when it's coming back, it's a bit strange, isn't it? Because like for them, for that 12 months of the year while you're following your club or however long it takes, you're part of a tribe and you're part of a cult to an extent. And then when that cult's took away and there's no sign of it coming back, people are a bit lost. And I think a lot of clubs have done really, really well in keeping engaging with the fans and keeping connected with the fans. But yeah, I mean, obviously Exeter's a pretty unique club in terms of they're owned by supporter trust. Do you think that brings any sort of advantages or disadvantages to other clubs?
I think for us, if anything, it means the fans are even more important to the club, aren't they? In what they do, they are the ones who own it and put in money every month out of their, their hard-earned money, especially in situations like this. So I think we kind of, I wouldn't say feel more pressure, but feel like we need to do more or communicate well with them and let them know what's happening at their club, really. I don't think you get that, if you had that, beneficiary or that, the chairman with millions in the bank, I don't think, they're not going to care as much, are they? And you only have to look at what happened to Bury last season to see, why that's not, the pot of money isn't always the best thing, because when it dries up, we know what happens then, really. So, I mean, it's been 20 years now of Sports Trust ownership. It was ironically, it was going to be celebrated at the game, with the last game that got called off against Salford on the 14th. So that's a shame, and obviously something we will celebrate when we come back. But like, that's a huge achievement from a club which almost went out of business due to crooked owners 20 years ago. Yeah. So the fans saved it, and they're the most important thing, really.
You think that also makes the fans feel more connected to the club because it's fan run?
Yeah, you'd hope so. I think they feel that everyone who's associated or works for the club has got its best interests at the heart. There's no one there who's there solely to make money from the club. Everyone who works there does it because it's a great place to work, and they get the club's ethos and values and everything. And I think as long as we listen to what people say and take on board, suggestions people have, or if they don't like something we do and we investigate that, then fair enough, I think. But as long as we're an open shop and don't, ignore people, I think that's the best we can do, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking to Carl and Paul, obviously the guys from the Terrace who are obviously licensed with Exeter, they say you're also the guy behind the camera as well. So, how beneficial is that being sort of for driving how you want marketing to work at Exeter? Because again, like we talked about earlier, you're kind of writing the theme tune, singing the theme tune.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that's beneficial in terms of it all being sort of joined up?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we worked really hard over the last, I'll say 4 years since I've been there, to kind of give the club like a strong identity that it has now. I think before we started, things were still being put up in the club that someone had just drawn on like a piece of paper and put up a poster and stuff like that, and and it just looked like people like that sound of like the small little old Exeter City kind of thing. I think that's slowly going now, and people are realising that it's a club which is heading in the right direction from the reputation it had a while ago. I think when some bad things happened and that. So I think that's something that we've still got a lot of work to do. And the club itself, everything's improving at the club. The stadium's had improvements. Attendances are up, selling more season tickets and things like that. But it's just converting those people who probably, over the years have thought, what they don't know what they're doing really, into coming back and seeing that things are a lot better now. So
what's a typical match day look like for you then, Scott, in terms of marketing manager?
So it's changed this season because my role mainly used to be filming the matches for our like SC Preview 60 things last season. I do that with Andy Thornton, who he works in the shop and does those on a match day. But we had a guy who wanted to volunteer his time to do it for a bit more experience. He just finished his uni course and stuff. So I stepped aside and I've let him take over with that. So I've been focusing more on the social media side of things this season. So we have usually one or two sort of helpers out on a match day. Uni students. We had a guy called Josh this year who was great help in doing like match reports and stuff on match days. And Craig as well, who used to work at Crawley. He's been helping us out for a while. So I've been doing more of like the Instagram and that kind of things, because it's the kind of stuff that we hadn't had enough time or enough people to put into. So we, focusing on trying to show off all aspects of a match day rather than just the match, to show people, what it's like if they're not there and stuff. Because obviously the people who are on social media during the game and stuff, or like before, probably aren't going to be there, because you'd be, why would you if you're already there? So it's a good way of us showing off, what it is like now, and the kind of extra stuff you can get if you come with your families and that kind of thing. So yeah, that, and do the, we kind of share around who does the Twitter updates and things like that, and those are always fun to do, and more of a challenge than you'd ever imagine as well when you first start doing it, because like it happens so quickly, and if you've missed who scored, there's that, like, you have to try and get it out as quickly as you can, and you don't want to get it wrong. And I got a couple wrong so far, but you have to make a joke about it, I think. But yeah, it's definitely harder than I imagined it would be.
Yeah, I would imagine it is. In terms of marketing, what challenge does away games present? In sort of trying to market your brand or Exeter's brand when obviously visiting away grounds. Is that a pretty unique thing, or is it just kind of like business as usual?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, I don't do too many of the away games. I go to a few, but Simon does the majority of them, and because he is based in Leeds originally, so he can stay with his brother in Manchester and stuff. So he'll make like a weekend of quite a lot of them. So I do a few of the local ones and that. But I mean, it's completely different, isn't it? Because we don't really make any money out of fans going to away games. Obviously, I think you get a tiny percentage of the ticket sales and stuff, but once they're at the ground, then they're paying that other team. So is it, should we be busting a gut to try and get thousands of people to go to away games, or just doing what we have to really, and focusing more on getting people here on a home game, really? So it gets as much attention as a home game would in terms of coverage, but I would say we don't probably put as much marketing into getting people to go to those games, because I mean, but we're based in Devon, each journey is probably at least 2.5 to 5 hours. So hats off to people who travel every week, really. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of ironic. I think it's a badly kept secret that I'm a Leeds United fan. I interviewed an ex-player this morning, and ironically, his debut was against Exeter.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, up at Ellen Road. Yeah, which is, that's a hell of a journey from Devon to Leeds. So credit for that journey time. So a bit of a curveball here from Carl and Paul. Okay. Exeter have just won 3-2 in the end of season promotion battle. Obviously, this is totally fictitious at the moment. The fans are cheering. Fingers crossed. Though, and 3 goals have come from a hat-trick hero. Which City player, past or present, would you wish it to be, and then have the joy of filming for an interview?
That's a good question. So this person scored the hat-trick that's got us promoted?
Yeah, it can be anybody, any current or former Exeter
player.
Okay.
I'd say, personally, if you could bring anyone back, it would be Adam Stansfield, probably. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was sadly passed away in 2010 from bowel cancer. In his 30s, and I mean, it's just a Exeter City legend, really. He's that player that had his heart on his sleeve and would put 100% in every game and stuff. I remember growing up in Columpton as a kid, a very small town, half an hour from Exeter. He used to play in his early stages of his career for them, and I go down and watch him with my dad when I was a kid, and you think, yeah, he's gonna do well, and he made a very good career. And he's still adored to this day. The fans sing about him every game and that. And I think if you could bring him back and he could do that, I think that would be the most incredible thing.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, to be fair. Back onto the marketing then. What's been your favourite campaign for the club to work on? Sort of how much preparation goes into season ticket campaigns and new kit launches and stuff like that?
I think the season ticket ones are probably the most fun, the ones I enjoy the most, because they happen the same time every year, but so you have plenty of time to prepare for them. And the challenge of trying to think of something new for each one is good. This year, the one we've just put out was about the sort of 20 years of trust ownership and putting your trust in the club. And it was fun because we had to go back for all the archive stuff and find, so I found stuff of heartache from those days, getting knocked out of the league and, almost going bust and stuff until sports took over. Paul Tisdale comes in, we get double promotions up to League One and stuff. And then, Matt comes in and we're on the right path at the moment to, pushing back up to League One again, hopefully. So that was good because it fits in with the whole nostalgia thing. So it brings back memories for people of things that, you don't want to remember, but you have to remember to realize how far you've come and where you want to get to, I think. So those are probably my favorite. I mean, they're usually pretty well received, and we've done a few different things. Like we did one with fans a couple of years ago, just talking about why they love the club and stuff like that, and makes it a little bit more personal, I think. But generally, start thinking about those kind of things sort of the end of the year, so December-y sort of time, coming up with the ideas and that, and aim to launch them in March. So it gives plenty of time to make sure you get it right, really. And yeah, those are probably the most fun. Doing the stuff with the guys at the Terrace is always fun too. Seeing what we can do with them and the kits and stuff, because people are going to love it. Because who doesn't love a retro kit, really?
Yeah, you touched on it before, and we touched on it on last week's episode. That it's the nostalgia and it's bringing that back, them memories, like whether it's an old kit, whether it's a moment, whether it's a player, like you mentioned earlier. Yeah, I think every fan, good or bad, likes to reminisce a little bit. Obviously prefer the good rather than the bad, but it still holds that same emotion, doesn't it? So you touched on it a little bit earlier that it was on the horizon before football was paused, but Exeter have a massive rivalry down there with Plymouth. Without doubt, I'm sure it's probably one of the first ones that's looked for in the fixture list. What's it like for you covering that as marketing manager?
It's one that you equally look forward to and dread as well, because regardless of what you do and, regardless of how much effort you put into it, you lose that game and that's all that people care about. So it's the result that affects everything. So you just spend the weeks leading up to it thinking please don't lose sort of thing. And thankfully the one game we had this season, couldn't have gone any better for us, winning 4-0 and being, the best game we've had this season. And yeah, I think everyone was really looking forward to the one down there. I mean, we had been apart for at least 2 seasons, if not 3. So it's been a little while since we've played competitively, other than a cup game. So yeah, just everyone gets really excited and brings out the best and worst in people too, because everyone wants to be involved in them. But then the kind of stuff you see online and that, you wince a little bit and think, it's a football game at the end of the day, and people may take it a little bit too seriously. And some of the personal stuff that you see isn't quite nice at times, but yeah, no, it's just one of them big games, isn't it?
Is any rivalry off the pitch, away from the playing staff for you guys with staff down at Plymouth?
Not right. We got on really well with most people who work there, really. So we try. I think I was having this conversation with the guy who works at Plymouth, because I probably don't want to talk about this because it gets mentioned too much still. But we did. So when the away game was supposed to happen, they challenged us to a game of Connect 4, as teams were doing on Twitter at the time. I think Bayern Munich and Hull, or it was a German team in Hull, I think, who started it. So I spent all day practicing on an online thing with that, and I was feeling quite confident at the time. We'd just been interviewed on Radio Devon about it as well, which was a little bit weird, and absolutely failed spectacularly and lost that, which was gutting because we had the whole, another 4-0 win written in the stars there if I hadn't messed that up. So I'm not going to live that down for a while. But it was fun though, because people were joking about it and stuff, and it made it a bit light-hearted, which was nice. But yeah, that's probably the lowest part of my Exeter City career so far. Other than losing at Wembley twice and losing to Plymouth at Connect 4.
Brilliant. So another bit from Carl and Paul. One part of the club that isn't often very public, and this is something I think sort of broad stroke across football, and why documentaries like the Manchester City one on Amazon, and Leeds United have had one on Amazon. I think Sunderland. This is why I think they're so addictive to people, because they get an insight. But the point the lads wanted me to raise was, who would you say is the face of the home dressing room currently at Exeter? Do you get to spend a lot of time with the players as well?
So we generally see them every Thursday because we have our press calls at the training ground on Thursday. But we're based at the club at the ground like Monday to Friday, well, on Saturday, and their players are out at the training ground. So we're not like some clubs are all in the same place, so we only see them sort of a couple of times a week. So see them on a Thursday and often on a Monday when we need to get some content. But I mean, they're such a great bunch. Like I couldn't speak any better of them really. They understand, all of them are the kind of players who understand the club and the challenges that it faces and what it stands for. So I think they're all they all get the community aspect of it and how important it is that they do things for the community and the way they represent themselves. So they are a great bunch, and like now is another great example of why they are, because they've been having to do so much stuff in their own time now just to phone people and send out birthday messages by video to people. Any request we get, they're all more than happy to do. So Jake Taylor's a great captain and a great guy, and like all I have to do is send him a WhatsApp message saying, could you do this? And an hour later he sent back a little video clip and stuff. And I think they're all great. But in terms of face, do you mean as in like the Joker, or
I think the guys are getting at
character?
I think the guys are getting at, if you got a request from someone, who would you suggest to put up in front of them?
Right. As in, like, who would be the best?
Who would be the best person to sort of represent Exeter City, whether that be from a joking side or from a.
Okay. Well, I'm here recently. Loads of people, all the players have been saying that Lee Martin is like the Joker in the dressing room and like the biggest character as well as the biggest moaner. So I think he would be interesting. I think they're all got their different ways. Like we've got people like Nicky Law, who is just a fantastic talker. Like I think he's played at pretty much every level. So if you interview him, somehow he's probably answered like 3 of your questions before you even got to the 3rd one, because he's just really good and well versed at it. But yeah, I mean they're all good lads, to be fair. I'd say.
Good. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's one that we kind of bring up with every guest. Social media. You've been commended for your social media from the guys at the Terrace. I did have a little look myself, and it is kind of refreshing. How much of that is such a big part of football now? Because we've seen it really, for me, really step up a level in certainly in the last 12, maybe 18 months with Instagram being used a lot. Twitter, I mean, Twitter's massive as a football community now, really up and down the country. Facebook, and I think this new rage thing, TikTok, which I won't be getting involved in. But I mean, how much of that? No, my kids are fully involved in it, but I'm avoiding it for the time being. So how much is that something you have got your eye on as a marketing manager, and how much is it such a big thing?
It's for us, it's huge. Ultimately, it is pretty much a free resource, isn't it? And it's a way that clubs like us can get a direct link to supporters, to keep them updated and sort of engaged. Gone are the days of club call and things like that. Back when I was a kid, like you'd have to phone up this premium number just to find out what was going on, sort of thing. So I think it makes it easier for us to keep in touch with people and try new things and show off everything that the club is doing in a good way. I think what we do is good at the moment, and I think, but we don't want to sort of sit still on that. We always want to challenge ourselves and try new things and do things the best way we can. Really, I think it kind of levels the playing field a little bit for clubs of all abilities. So you see, there's loads of non-league teams that are doing really good stuff as well. And you have a look at it and you think, how are they managing to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Using there's so many keen students out there and uni students who are wanting to get involved in what is a really hard industry to sort of break into, because there is only a certain amount of clubs and positions available. The fact that they're getting experience at their local non-league club, I think it will definitely help them in the future, really. So
so that kind of segues me on perfectly to the next question, really. If you were to give advice to them, would that be your advice, to go and get some experience
at absolutely.
Lower levels, and then sort of build a CV?
Any experience you can get is better than none, isn't it? And I think having that is more important, because it shows that you can do the job that you're applying to do. So I think, like, especially for me, and I think if anyone's looking to sort of like get a job in the lower leagues, then you need to be an all-rounder, really. I think you know, you go to Championship and Premier League and they've got media teams where people are specifically doing like Snapchat and stuff like that. That is their like full-time role, or like, you know, social media, video, just specific to that. But at this level, you need to be able to do all those things, and you don't have to be the best at them, but to have the ability to, you know, do an interview, write it up, you know, design a basic poster, and be able to manage social media, you know, then you're ticking all the boxes as to what a club would want, really, I think. So getting experience and teaching yourself those things in your spare time, I think, is crucial.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I've certainly learned from my very short time podcasting is just the running of social media is incredibly time consuming. And incredibly easy to get wrong. Like, other products are available, but Apple kill me on a regular basis by auto correcting things that I don't want them to auto correct. And the fact that Twitter have not yet come up with a way of editing a tweet, you have to write it out again, absolutely drives me insane.
It reminds me of you have them sometimes, because obviously I had one, I got it wrong about 5 times, I think. Like, and then, but I forget that some people have notifications turned on for tweets from clubs, don't they? So then I had a message from someone going, "You're right," like, because they obviously had like 5 different things come up.
And the worst thing is as well for me, like, I might fit a tweet in around work or around family stuff or around anything else, so I'll quickly write it out, send it, and I'll only find out like an hour and a half later when I look at my notifications.
You think,
I've just got scores and scores of people pointing it out. But so
apostrophe in the wrong place, that's the killer, isn't it?
I absolutely take my hat off to anybody who manages social media on a full-time basis, particularly for a massive brand, which obviously I'm not. But
it's tough as well. It's tough as well because you don't really switch off from it either. Because like, even like outside of working hours, you know, if they exist, it's on your phone. So like, I'm always checking and replying to stuff. You know, noise the other half a lot when she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing." But you can't help it because like, you're so engrossed in it, you enjoy it so much, and you want to like talk to people and make them feel like you care and that sort of thing. But you have to kind of draw the line sometimes. But I still don't think 4 years later I've sort of achieved that yet. Still, you know, checking it all the time.
Do you think that because you're an Exeter fan and you have always been, do you think sometimes that emotional connection might be a bad thing?
Possibly, yeah. I think you care a bit more, or a bit too much, maybe sometimes, and things hurt a little bit more probably than they would if it was someone who didn't have that association. So, but I think it can only be a positive thing in terms of everything we try and do is for the right reasons, and because, you know, we love doing it and care, I think. So yeah, it's a bit of both, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So just before we move on to fans Q&As, which we had on as well, I just need to touch on the guys from the Terrace, and sort of your working relationship with them guys. I mean, sort of how did that come about, and you know, what benefit have you seen from the retro kit culture?
So I think, I can't remember how long, it must have been at least a couple of years ago now, but this is when they first started, because we were their first licensed club, I remember. But I think they got in touch with Alan Hay, who was head of tickets and retail at the club. He's actually just moved to Australia, so just left the club. So we're still getting over that. But yeah, so he got in touch, and you know, Carl and Paul were like, wanted to meet us really and talk about what they do in that. It ended up coming down, and we went out for a few drinks, and they had a hangover. I think I didn't. They're not used to the Devon ciders, and it's just sort of growing from there. Like, I think the first thing we did was the 93 sort of jazzy retro shirt, which is one of the most ridiculous football shirts of all time. I've got it right here, actually. This beast.
Look at that.
That one. Yeah.
Do you know something? Weirdly, I remember that shirt. I can't remember why, but I remember that shirt.
Paired with yellow shorts as well. So that yellow there, it was, and I think red socks. It was the most ridiculous thing. But like, it's just one of them like cult kits now, isn't it? And especially with, for some reason, we were sponsored by Carling at that point as well. And I heard one of the history guys say that they reckon it was because we owed the brewery money at the time. So to pay them off, they put them on the front of the shirt, I think. Well, I don't know if that's true, but it sounds like classic Exeter City 90s. Cool. So that went down a storm, really, that one. And then we've done a few more since and all sorts of things. And they came down last season and went out for dinner and stuff. So got a really good relationship with them. I couldn't speak any higher of them. I think they're great lads. And really interested in. We all love what they're doing, really, and I can't believe how big it's getting so quickly as well. Just shows, as you're saying, how big nostalgia is in football, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, because it taps into that emotion, doesn't it? I mean, like we talked about it before, like I remember that shirt. I can't remember why I remember it, but I remember it. But I remember, like,
if you've seen it, you wouldn't forget it, would you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's like, the for example, keeping away from my club allegiance, the England Euro 96 shirt. You see that, and straight away you remember the Holland game, the Germany game, Gazza's goal against Scotland.
The water ball,
it taps into that. It taps into that mindset, doesn't it, of what it was like back then, and takes you back. So yeah, absolutely. Right. So let's get into some fan questions then.
I'm not really prepared for these that well, so because I thought it was tomorrow, so I'll do my best. But I apologize.
I always find it's best if you just answer it like you think you should. So first question comes from After Extra Time Shirts over on Twitter, and we've kind of answered this already. But what's your top tip that you'd give to volunteers or workers at smaller clubs that would benefit their marketing?
Just to, I guess, you've got the opportunity to try things, haven't you? So take inspiration from clubs around you and of a higher stature. I think we would say that, like, budget and staffing and that shouldn't be an issue if you got the right people. So if people are good at their job and care about what they're doing, then the good stuff will come from that. But just try. Don't be afraid to try things, because often, like you could spend weeks and months planning something, thinking this is going to go down really well, and get 4 likes on it or something, and then all of a sudden something happens and it goes viral. Like it must have been 3 seasons ago now, but before Matt Taylor was manager, he was our under-23s coach, and we had a game. I think it was like a cup qualifier. I think it was at Dagenham, and they did a post-match interview with him. And coming towards the end of it, and he like swatted away a fly, but at the same time the floodlight went out, so it just looked like he had turned off the floodlight with his hand, and that just went mental. Like, posted the clip, and then it was getting shared. It had millions of millions of views and went crazy. And like, you think, like, you can't plan for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it shows, like, what is it worth spending months, hours, and loads of money on something that's too overdone? It's just people just love the small stuff, don't they?
Yeah, the organic stuff, innit? I mean,
exactly.
I've seen one this morning. BT Sports doing an interview with Joe Cole.
Yeah,
and his lights go out, and he just carries on the interview and just styles it out, and it's absolutely brilliant. But again, it's stuff you can't plan. But yeah, absolutely class. Next question then is from After Extra Time Shirts again. It appears they're a big fan of yours. Yep. If no one has asked yet, what's your favourite shirt?
That's why I had to brought this in. It's got to be this one, isn't it? It's got to be this.
To be fair, that's my favourite Exeter shirt, I think, as well.
We had a blue and black one as well, which the Terrace did, which is, again, quite garish, but not as bad. But it gives you a bit of a migraine. But yeah, those kind of ones. Unfortunately, we haven't had that many in our history of bonkers shirts. If you look at some clubs, and like I think Newcastle had that stage in the 90s where they were all ridiculous. Thinking of that, the keeper one they had, and then that one with like the skyline and stuff, and the jazzy colours. Yeah, the best football shirts are the wackiest ones, really, aren't they?
Yeah, we talked about this on episode 1 where they've kind of gone. It's like, a one print fits all kind of thing.
Yeah.
For a long time, club kits were very unique to the club. Now you see kits that look similar across the world. You can pretty much guess your next football shirt by looking at another team who wear the same brand.
I think Puma are like that. There's a you get out the catalogue and they change the cuffs or something. Like you see, there's like 5 or 6 clubs in the Football League that have pretty much got the same shirt in different colours, and I think it's a bit sad because, like, I mean, we're with Joma for ours, which are, they do Swansea and a few other clubs, but all our shirts are sort of more bespoke, so they're not straight out of a catalogue. We try and make them so they're, it's a red and white shirt at the end of the day. There's not much you can do with that, is there? But you try and give it a little twist or make it a little different each time, so it doesn't feel like it's just been picked from a catalogue.
Yeah. Next question then. I'm going to try and not kill this Twitter name, but Eldorado at ChildishJ98.
Yeah.
How do you think the importance and styles of marketing differ at a lower level of English football compared to the Premier League? And how big a role has social media played in your time at the club? Kind of covers that bit.
I think it's the lower you go down, the more personal it feels. I think because your big boys don't need probably, if you've got 7 million Twitter followers or something, how are you going to communicate with them and things like that? I think people are going to turn up regardless because you're such a big thing, aren't you? They're not going to have any trouble selling out their grounds and stuff. So I think at a lower level, you have to appreciate the fans more and try and be a bit more personal with them. So I think it gives us an opportunity to do that kind of thing. And I think that's why it's such a good tool for us, because we have a small budget to spend on marketing online and offline, and this is just a great way that we can do that, really.
Next question from Exeter Exiles at London Grecian. Oh dear, that sounds like a well-known.
No, I remember this one, and I was trying to think, but yeah, they're good guys. There.
So again, it's one of my hypothetical things. Money is no object. If there is one piece of tech you'd want, what would it be? A jumbo screen in the railway corner would be nice.
So that's something that the club, I'm sure that the club is working on, sorting a big screen to replace the terrible scoreboard, which works now and again. This scoreboard is great because it's just like a Exeter City visitors 0-0 time thing, but it's got this control thing which looks like a detonator. So it's got, you pull out the antennae on it, and it has like start and stop. But the problem is you press start and you have to wait until it goes to 1. So you have to wait 60 seconds to know if it's working. It doesn't tell you or anything. So so then obviously if it hasn't worked, you can't start it. So then it gets, so then you're playing the whole half with 0 up and that, and then people are like, who's running that? It's a shambles and stuff. And you think, yeah, who would design something that badly that it you don't even beep to say like it's worked. So that will be replaced at some point, but obviously things are a bit scuppered at the moment with the situation we're in. But in terms of equipment, I was just trying to wrap my brain on that, and like, there's so many things. I think like, you could buy the most incredible camera, but then do you need that really? I mean, we've got the ones we've got weren't that expensive, but they do decent stuff and film slow-mo and stuff, so pretty good with that. But I don't really know. I mean, yeah, tough one. I think the screen would be the best option for now. Maybe a couple of them have one out in the fan area as well.
Right. Cool. Next question then. At Ben Hook.
Ben, he works for Swindon, does Ben? He's there.
Oh, does he?
Actually, yeah.
Oh, it might be a bit of spying going on here.
No, he's a really nice guy, Ben. Yeah, get on really well.
Cool. What's your process for the ideas and execution of digital content? How much thought goes into the ideas, and when are they planned?
It's a good question. That I think obviously over the summer. So now it was a good time as any to plan stuff. But yeah, as soon as the season finishes, we'd spend probably a good couple of weeks thinking about what we want to do in the next season. Because obviously you don't want to be doing the same series and content and everything. So by July we'd sit down and say, what kind of video series can we do next season? Because this year we did like the fan Q&A sort of thing, so people left their questions on Twitter and then we asked the players and did that. Season before we'd done like me versus him thing, so get 2 players together, ask them a question, they had me and him on the board and they had to put up their answer, so like who's the laziest, that sort of thing, which is fun. So yeah, just trying to do the stuff alongside the interviews, which is quite fun. So we generally come up with that and any kind of web series and all that kind of stuff we want to do over the summer, but also then things just evolve throughout the season really. So it's generally a lot of times if we have an idea, you have that idea and then you get on with it and do it really, because again we don't necessarily, me and Simon are the ones who are in control of the output really, so we don't need to go to anyone else and say, is this a good idea? We're sort of trusted that we are doing things for the right reason and we're not going to offend anyone really. So a lot of it will be, we think, is this a good idea? Is it something we can achieve? And we'll do it. Like I was saying earlier, the season ticket one is one that takes proper planning really, and kit launches and things like that. But yeah, the summertime is the crucial time for that, because it's when you've got time to assess what you've done last season and how you can improve on that really.
Yeah, absolutely. So final question, and it's from After Extra Time Shirts again.
Oh yeah.
Massive fan. What's been your favourite game?
My favourite game, Exeter City game, or
just put what's been your favourite game.
So if you're talking in general and from when I was a child, two games spring to mind. One would be the 99 Champions League final. I'm not a Man United fan, but the 99 Champions League final. Obviously, I think it's one of the first games. I was 13 at that point, so it's one of the first games that I remember fully like watching with my dad in the living room and thinking he was a big Man United fan and thinking it was terrible like up until the last sort of 5 minutes, and then just like the euphoria of that happening. I was celebrating not even being a Man United fan. It's just the ridiculousness of that happening. I think that's sort of what hooked me into football. Just seeing, those kind of things can happen when they're not expected. I think, and also the 4-1 game against Holland at Euro '96 as well. I think I recently found a DVD of that in the charity shop as well, so I bought that. But I think that game is another one that I was 10 at that point, and it was like ridiculous because like Holland were one of the best teams at the time, weren't they, as well? And no one really expected what happened in that game, and to beat them 4-1 was incredible, really. Exeter City wise is a tough one as well because there've been so many important games over the time. Like you look at the 0-0 Man United game that pretty much saved the club at the time, getting the replay at our place, and then winning at Wembley finally to get promoted back to the Football League, and then if you go to this season, the beating Plymouth Argyle 4-0 was a bit of a special day because I don't think, and you'd never really expect to win a derby game 4-0. So a lot of games have their merits, really. I think. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Scott, that's finished putting you on the spot. That kind of brings us to an end of episode 2.
Hopefully, it all made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounded very good to me. So I think before we go, though, obviously you already touched on it. Season's halted. Exeter find themselves sat in 4th with 9 games left, 5 at home, I think you said.
Yep.
Have you got a prediction for the remainder of the season? Or a wish? Shall we say a wish rather than a prediction?
Just win all 9 1-0 and go straight up would be nice, really. But yeah, we've come so close so many times over the last few years. No, I think even more now, no one's going to want to go through the playoffs or to end up at Wembley because if they're playing behind closed doors or whatever, imagine playing at Wembley when it's completely empty. I mean, I don't know if that would still be the plan, but it would be interesting when it's. And I don't think anyone's going to want to go through that. So I think but I think it's also going to be half teams. So everyone's going to be in the same situation where you're all a little bit rusty, aren't you? Because like footballers haven't really kicked a football in over 4, 5, 6 weeks now. So it's like a pre-season. It's like you kind of feel like they'll need a pre-season before they can even get started again. So it's going to be interesting regardless.
I think the playoff thing, something that's never been considered. Like the fact that potentially a playoff finals played behind closed doors, that'd be absolutely crazy. And empty the stadium.
Yeah, they'd have wild. They might as well play at a smaller venue, though, hadn't they? If that was the case,
you'd imagine they play somewhere like St George's Park or something.
It doesn't really matter where you play at the end of the day, does it? If no one's there, really.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you stay play on. I suppose it'll all come down to where they can police and things like that as well. Because, like, I certainly know the club I follow, and obviously Exeter and any club. If your team in the playoff final, fans are going to try and get as close as they possibly can. Anyway.
I was having a conversation with Lee Holmes the other day about X. He was saying he's one of the older players in the team now, or like, and he was saying like it feels like going back to like the days of when you were like just coming through football, and because you're playing these little grounds with no fans there and stuff, and it'll be a weird experience. Like, and I was saying like, do you celebrate if you score a goal if no one's there? Stuff. He's like, you got to celebrate, but yeah, it'd just be strange, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely going to be weird, and like you say, it's a good point about a potential mini pre-season. They're going to need maybe 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks to get back to,
because they're not even in training at the moment. So
I know certainly my club they've had a rota basis where I think a couple of players can go in and one's on the running track at the car park, the other's on a pitch, and I think they've been told they've got to go and kick a ball in the net just so that they're keeping that movement going and stuff. So
there's nothing like, you can't do anything like that at home. It's nowhere near the same, is it? Like
that's it. So it's going to definitely be interesting. But Scott, thanks for your time, mate. It's been a real pleasure.
It's been enjoyable.
And it's opened my eyes totally to obviously the marketing department at a major brand. So thanks very much for your time. Keep yourself safe, mate, and hopefully football returns soon. And maybe celebrating an Exeter promotion when it finally peers. Hopefully not at an empty. Hopefully not at an empty stadium though.
Yeah, I'd take that though if we got promoted, definitely.
Yeah, I would as well. To be fair. Absolutely. Anyway, thanks very much, mate, and take it easy.
Thank you very much.